You've probably got a bottle of this in your medicine cabinet, right? But I'm willing to bet you don't know the story behind it. And let me tell you, the history of Echinacea is way wilder than you can imagine. We're about to uncover its forgotten past, from a sacred remedy to a full-on snake oil sideshow.
So, let's start things off with a little pop quiz. Picture this. It's before penicillin, before all our modern labs. What do you think was the single most popular, most used medicine in the entire United States? Go on, take a guess.
The answer might actually surprise you. It wasn't a pill, it wasn't some potion cooked up in a lab. It was this, a humble prairie flower, the purple cone flower, which we all know today as Echinacea. For decades, this plant was an absolute medicinal powerhouse. So how did it go from the prairie to the pharmacy? Well, let's find out.
To really understand this plant, our story can't begin in a pharmacy. We have to go way back, out onto the Great Plains. Because long before settlers arrived, the indigenous peoples of that region had a really deep, sophisticated, and even spiritual relationship with this plant.
So where did the name even come from? Well, Echinacea comes from the Greek word for hedgehog, which, when you look at that spiky, cone-shaped center, makes perfect sense, right? But, that's just its scientific name. The names it earned out on the prairie, they tell a much, much richer story.
The traditional names for this plant are just beautiful. To the Meskwaki, for example, it wasn't just a plant. It was the hairs of Grandmother Earth's head. I mean, that name alone shows you just how profound their spiritual connection to the land really was.
In English, it earned a whole bunch of nicknames. And these names aren't just random. They're like clues. Snake root, scurvy root, elk root. Every single one hints at a story or a specific historical use that we're about to dive into.
The indigenous names also revealed this deep, practical knowledge. The Lakota called it something that basically means something used to knock something down, probably talking about knocking down an illness. The Kiowa Apache name meant medicine that makes you numb, a crystal-clear reference to its pain-killing properties. This wasn't just folklore, this was science, observed and passed down over generations.
And this reputation wasn't built on just one or two uses. Oh no, Echinacea was a true medicinal multi-tool, the original panacea for the peoples of the Great Plains.
And this isn't just based on oral tradition. Archaeological digs have found hard evidence of Echinacea being used as medicine for at least 400 years, grounding these practices in deep, verifiable history.
The scope of its use was truly staggering. One early observer was so impressed that he wrote it was used as a remedy for more ailments than any other plant. Just think about that. More than any other plant.
So what exactly were those ailments? Take a look. The Cheyenne used it to prevent thirst during sacred ceremonies. The Dakota used it for toothaches and even snake bites. The Ute called it elk root because they believed that wounded animals would instinctively seek it out for healing. From burns to mumps, its applications were just incredibly diverse.
But its importance went way beyond the physical. It was used ritually in sweat lodge ceremonies, and for the Navajo, it remains one of their sacred life medicines. This plant was woven into the very fabric of life, both physical and spiritual.
Okay, this is where the story takes a big turn. As settlers learned of the plant's power from local tribes, Echinacea began a new journey from the prairie into the wild world of commercial patent medicine. You can see just how fast this all happened. For centuries, this knowledge was passed down within tribes, but by the late 1800s, that knowledge was commercialized. In just about a decade, it went from a patented idea to a mass-market product, like Meyer's blood purifier.
And with commerce came marketing. To stand out in a really crowded market of tonics and elixirs, promoters started making these extraordinary, almost unbelievable claims.
And this is the most legendary example. A doctor named H.C.F. Meyer was so confident in his Echinacea-based remedy, especially as a cure for snakebite, that he publicly offered to let a rattlesnake bite him just to prove its power. Now that is what I call product demonstration.
And believe it or not, that very story is one of the origins of the term snake oil salesman. Even though Dr. Meyer seemed to genuinely believe in his product, his flair for the dramatic became the hallmark of hucksters selling unproven remedies with these sensational claims.
But despite all those sideshow antics, Echinacea wasn't just a patent medicine. It became a cornerstone of a legitimate medical movement, which really cemented its status as a pre-antibiotic powerhouse.
It was championed by a fascinating group called the eclectic physicians. Now, these were formally trained doctors who rejected some of the harsh conventional treatments of the day. Instead, they turned to botanical remedies, particularly those rooted in Native American traditions. And in their playbook, Echinacea was an absolute star player.
And it was taken very seriously in medical circles. The eclectics prescribed it for life-threatening conditions like blood poisoning and diphtheria, hailing it as a powerful antiseptic and what they called an alterative, a substance they believed could fundamentally correct the course of a disease.
Think about that for a moment. By the turn of the 20th century, this humble prairie flower had become the single most used plant medicine in the entire country. It was mainstream. It was essential. So what happened? This slide says it all. The arrival of powerful, lab-created antibiotics like penicillin completely changed the game. Suddenly, botanical remedies felt old-fashioned. A primary medicine became an alternative one, and Echinacea's reign as America's top remedy came to an end. The fall of Echinacea from the top tier of medicine was swift, and it makes you wonder, if a plant that was a cornerstone of American medicine could be so thoroughly forgotten, what other powerful remedies are hiding in history just waiting to be rediscovered?